earlier on, the Hawk and Nimrod was the navalised version of the Hawk and Fury biplane fighter that was the first aircraft in the RAF inventory to be able to exceed 200 miles an hour. Now, for the non-aviation people amongst us, it's worth mentioning now then that this is not to be confused with a biplane type. This is the Typhoon of the 1930s. Absolutely. This was the aeroplane that everybody, the Fury was the aeroplane everyone in the RAF wanted to fly. They didn't have many of them, and we will hopefully very soon be seeing one of those flying too. But this is the navalised version with the hook, and designed as an aircraft that could get up and counter any airborne threat to the fleet carriers and the fleet battleships of the period. This particular aircraft positioned to 802 Squadron in the Mediterranean in October 1936. This aeroplane is now signed by Jeff Eadley. Now, he flew this aircraft off carriers when it was in the Mediterranean, and he has signed the door, on the inside of the door of this aeroplane. Now, interestingly enough, Aero Vintage restored this aeroplane. They also restored the other surviving Nimrod, the Nimrod 1. And Jeff Eadley not only flew both aeroplanes, but apparently he flew them both from the same carrier, and in his logbook there's evidence he flew them on the same day. So Charlie bringing the aircraft round for a barrel roll. You can see the very visible and very bright squadron markings on the upper wing. And you can hear the wonderful sound of that Rolls-Royce Kestrel engine. Leon Solent at HMS Davis and Leon Solent in 1939, by which time it was pretty well surface to requirements, pretty well obsolete. I was just a ground instructional airframe. Leon Solent's a place I'm familiar with. I was born under the circuit there and grew up with lots of naval aviation going on, but sadly nothing like this. On these turns, if you look underneath, you'll see a sort of triangle towards the back. That is the arrestor gear. So it's obviously fitted to stop it, because you've got to remember in 1930, 1931, 32, when this aeroplane was in frontline service, this was about as high tech as you can get. And of course, also, as you look at this aeroplane, you can compare it with the Hurricane that you saw earlier, and you can see this really has a very strong family resemblance. In fact, in the early design stages, the Hawk Hurricane was actually known as the Hawk Fury. The remains of this aircraft were eventually found on a scrapyard. And after a certain amount of toing and froing and chasing bits and finding things, it eventually ended up with Aero Vintage in August 1991, and they rebuilt it to airworthy specification. As we mentioned, there is also a Nimrod 1 flying. This aircraft is quite different in that it has swept wings, a tail wheel, and a very complex steam condensing cooling system. This was a system that was to be used on the early Spitfires, but was given up as being a non-starter. It had a brief time in use, but then with much better cooling systems using it. Now, restoration of this aircraft
been to remanufacture the spars, which are very, very complex. Retrotech, the restoration arm of Aero Vintage and the Historic Aircraft Collection, managed to find the drawings. They also managed to get the dies, the proper things to make these spars correctly, and this has enabled not only the rebuild of this, but also the rebuild of many other aircraft of the period. The Kestrel engine for this aircraft was found in Canada and rebuilt to the appropriate specification. And this Nimrod flew for the first time, its second first flight, on the 16th of November 2006. Remember earlier on today I was talking about the rebuild of my aeroplane. That's, what was that, 92 to 2006. That's what, 14 years. That's a long time. And of course you get to the point where you've done 90% and you still have 90% left to do.